Hello, BookTube. I set foot outside my front door yesterday to indulge my little baby Bean, right next to me, very sleepy, in a long walk. It was a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Just gorgeous. Like swimming in a swimming pool. And I decided that rather than subject her to climbing over hill and dale and trying to find, you know, upland wooded pastures that we've never seen before and breaking new ground and whatnot, which she's a city girl. My little baby's a city girl. She'll put up with that. She'll scramble over that ground to please me. But rather than do that, I decided that we would stick to popular, sculpted, paved promenades in a park. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Dappled green hillsides and swards of forest sloping away from us in all directions, but nice wandering paths with benches and views and people, lots of humans for her to meet and demand that they fuss over her. So she just walks on her stubby little legs straight up to them and just stands in front of them. They're all smiling and saying, "What's the matter?" And I'm saying, "She's insisting that you fuss over her." And I'm always a little embarrassed by it, but people love it. That's Frida's idea of an ideal walk, so I gave her that. And I also indulged in something that I can't always do in freezing cold weather, but I can do it when it's not freezing cold, and you should too if you walk your dog. You have to remember, this is their walk, not yours. They can't come and go as they please. So what I like to do, the foremost thing that I love to do, is to just, all right, we're going to go for a walk. I'm going to pick the place. I'm going to get us there. So there has to be a little tension on the leash because we're going to be getting through traffic, which you don't understand at all, which can kill you. But once we get where we're going, then you're going to walk. And that's it. I'm never going to hurry you. I'm not going to put any tension on the leash. You want to pause for 15 minutes in a place, go right ahead. It's your walk, not mine. So when I'm not freezing to death, when I'm not freezing my giblets off, we're just going to walk. We're just going to stroll to your heart's content. Frida is as smart as I am. She is one of the smartest dogs I've ever had, and her intelligence is very different from that of a beagle. It's very human-oriented. In other words, if we go on a long stroll like that, when she starts to get really hot and maybe even a little bored, she herself is going to want to slowly circle back to the homestead. And she did. So we had a wonderful, wonderful walk. It was fantastic. At one point, she was so obsessed with fussing with humans that she didn't notice that if she had merely turned her head on the grass about, a car length away, were two bunny rabbits just sitting there on the grass, contentedly munching. She would have been contentedly munching on them. She would have wanted to kill them if she'd seen them, but she was too busy standing up on people and saying, "Oh, aren't I pretty? You should pet me. You should let me lick your nose." And that walk was wonderful. With my Bean, out on the green sward, just enjoying a beautiful blue sky day. One of these days where the only thing that's missing, the only element that's missing that will be here for the next 5 months was heat. There was no heat. There is no heat today. Heat is coming for parts of the eastern seacoast in the next 5 days. I don't know if it's going to reach as far as Massachusetts. Massachusetts is going to have a couple of warm days, but I don't think it's going to be a regular thing. But it was gorgeous, and that was the only thing that was missing, was heat. And then we came back, and we relaxed, and went on with the rest of our evening. But that's because the Bean was with me. When I set foot outside my door and the Bean is not with me, I accumulate books. I accumulate books like lint, about 50 pounds of books. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about getting them back here anymore. The leather bag that I Frankenstein during the long saga of Bag Tuesday works like a charm. It is the bag that I will have for years. Years. It can take any amount of punishment without creaking anymore, without anything even remotely starting to wear or come loose. It's the bag for me. It can fit anything. Just anything. So I didn't have that drama, and I went out today. Earlier today. Beautiful day. Most of the times that I go out today, I will go out with the Bean for non-book related, non-structured walks out in the beauty of the wilderness. I will probably ask her if we can go climbing, if we can go, parting trees in the wilderness, if we can go off the trail, off the paths. I'll probably ask her to do that, and she'll probably agree. But no matter what we do, I won't be accumulating books. None of those passersby that want to fuss over Frida will be handing me books. But when I go out any other time, I do accumulate them, and I did today, and I did accumulate books. So I want to show you them. I want to show you the stack of books that I got. We'll start off with, what did I get, 4 of each? Oh, wow, I did. I got 4 mass market paperbacks and then 4 books that aren't. The first mass market paperback I have never seen before. What a joy. These were all free. And this was a joy to find. I love this author. I've never read this book. The author is Nicholas Montserrat, who is the author of The Ship That Died of Shame, or HMS Marlborough Will Enter Harbor, or most especially The Cruel Sea, The Capellan of Malta, that sort of thing. But he wrote all of his life long. He wrote an enormous amount of stuff. And he wrote this book, The Pillow Fight, in this little mass market paperback. Nicholas Montserrat has written with discernment and flashing wit of a marriage in our time, 2 people struggling to redefine and renew their love. She was sophisticated, rich, and a success in business. He was a talented but poor and unknown writer. They met and found that opposites do attract, and were married. But 6 years later, she had learned that there was more to life than social and business power, and he was a world-famous novelist, grown complacent with success. In other words, completely different from his nautical fiction. I can't wait to read it. Can't wait to read it. I don't know how well this kind of an old mass market paperback will hold up, but it will certainly hold up to one reading. Then we have a horror novel. This is by Leslie Hollander. This will probably do for Garb August. I probably won't read it right away. I'll probably stick to Garb August. This is called The Exhibit. And there is a sacred, no doubt cursed, artifact. 4 New Yorkers were more than interested in the headline of a Golden Age of Egypt exhibit. They were going to steal the exhibit's most priceless objects. There was Claudia, rich, beautiful expert on antiques, with a desperate loneliness at the center of her life. There was Charles, afraid of looking for a new job at 47, determined to maintain his family's lifestyle. There was Sharon, in search of a new career and a way out of her loveless marriage. And there was Peter, Sharon's lover, a television producer in love with thrills. And they were going to get away with it until the killings started. So is this from the 1970s? It certainly feels like it was. Are you from the 1970s, my dear? Are you going to tell me? 1981, close enough. Close enough. We were all still in the 70s hangover in 1981. I will probably wait until Garb August to do this. See, it seems like it will be good, enjoyable trash. Then this next one, it was free, so I grabbed it. But I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I'm not going to wait for March Mystery Madness to do this, because March Mystery Madness, like most good BookTube events, is a signal of emphasis rather than an exclusion of it. I love reading murder mysteries. I could not possibly go without reading new and old murder mysteries all year long. Same thing is partially true with trash, but I'll mostly concentrate on August for my trash. But this is Freeman Wills Crofts, I have read 2 or 3 books by this. He's a mystery author. I have read 2 or 3 books by him, and they've taught me a lot about what a murder mystery author needs to do in terms of the practicalities of the storyline. So if you are the killer and you give yourself an alibi of taking a ferry to the mainland, what are the practical ways that a police detective could figure out that is false, that alibi is false? What are the ways they could poke holes in that alibi? If you're using a hidden camera to photograph your boss's office so that you can steal from him, what are the practical ways that a detective could figure out that you had done that? Learning about those things is important, I think, in writing a classic murder mystery. But reading them in a drama, in a novel, is deadly dull, and I'm going to give this author another try. This is The Chain Mystery. Freeman Wills Crofts. That looks like a 70s cover. Cover design. When did this come out? This came out in 1926, and this was reprinted in 1978. In a country hotel, Maxwell Chain sits down to lunch with a pleasant stranger he has just met. Then, as the meal ends, he sinks into a drugged sleep, and on waking, learns that his house has been burgled, although nothing is missing. This is only the first of his encounters with a gang of very persistent criminals. But what are they after? It falls to Inspector French of Scotland Yard to expose their desperate and unguessable conspiracy. We will see. I have never been able to guess anything like the ending of any of this author's books that I've read. But I've never wanted to either. Inspector French has all of the personality of a logbook. Not the log entries, just the book. So we shall see. I'm going to give it a try anyway. I'm not going to wait for a booktube event. But this next one very much dovetails with the booktube event. I read this for this particular booktube event last year, but not in paper form. I might want to read it again. This is Louis L'Amour. The booktube event, of course, is June on the Range, which is right around the corner, right around the bend. And this is a long, epic Western by Louis L'Amour. This is The Lonesome Gods. I have an ebook of this, but it doesn't have this cover. I bought this when it came out in the 1980s. 1983. I bought this when it came out. I saw it as a mass market paperback, and I spent, what was this? $3.50. Which was a lot. That was a lot. That was what my whole week's worth of comics would cost altogether. And I liked it. I in retrospect now, after 40 years, I see that Louis L'Amour is really at his strongest when he is writing right in between this and a short story. When he's writing a lean novel, no fat on it at all, he's really at his best when he's doing that. His short stories, I don't think, work, and his longer novels don't tend to work. The Walking Drum is a historical novel of his that isn't a Western, and that does work. I'm not 100% sure whether this thing does or not, but now I have it as a mass market paperback. I hadn't had this. I hadn't found this for last June on the Range. I might give it another try, even though it's a huge investment. I mean, in the time it takes me to reread The Lonesome Gods, I could read 10 ordinary Westerns. Because this thing is, what, 600 pages long? Is that right? Let's see. Oh, it's got a Q&A with Louis L'Amour in the back. 450 pages long. That's 4 Westerns. Westerns are really, really quick things. Then we'll do the larger books, 2 trade paperbacks and 2 hardcovers. One is from the folks at Europa Editions. I didn't get this book from them, I don't think. I don't think I did. When were you from? 2010. So I was very much back in the reviewing game, and I was on their list. Maybe I did get it from them. I don't remember it. This is by Laurence Cosse, translated from the French by Alison Anderson, and it's called A Novel Bookstore. One of those cartoony covers. About a bookstore that has a whole bunch of regular people in it who aren't as regular as they seem. A devotee of Stendhal who has shunned the company of his fellow human beings to live on the outskirts of a tiny village in Savoy is kidnapped and left for dead along a forest road. A middle-aged mother who spends much of her time shuttling her numerous offspring along twisting mountain roads loses control of her car and ends up injured but alive in a gorge. Meanwhile, an elderly man of unbreakable habits is taunted and threatened by 2 unknown men while on his morning walk along the cliffs of Brittany. Mystery abounds, but a novel bookstore is no everyday mystery. Victims were not members of the underworld, toughs or thugs, but mild, meek, and apparently ordinary people. In the eyes of their aggressors, they are guilty only of one crime, expressing their tastes in literature. Indeed, all 3 victims are members of the Good Novels Secret Selection Committee. Tucked away in a corner of Paris, the Good Novel Bookstore offers its clientele literary masterpieces, both contemporary and classics, selected by a top-secret committee of authors. The store has proven an instant success, but nobody could have imagined that such success would unleash a tide of hatred. Now, there are those who will stop at nothing to destroy the good novel. I think I would remember reading a story like that, and I don't. So I'm going to give this a try this weekend and see if it starts to ring bells. Now, this next one I know I haven't read, but I have read this author. The author is Mel Keegan. And Mel Keegan has written a lot of books. I have read only 2. 2 sort of Hardy Boys grow up and are lovers. Gay thrillers. You gotta have something for the gays. I forget the name of those 2 books, Earth, Wind, and Fire, or something like that. They had home-drawn covers. I got them at Glad Day Books in Boston, a gay bookstore in Boston that closed a long time ago. And I think that the owner and proprietor of Glad Day has since gone on to his eternal reward, which in his case, knowing his luck, will be that he will be the proprietor of a bookstore for all eternity. He wasn't totally in love with that job. I found these 2 books there, and they have their thrills, they have their pleasures. I think I've read a couple of other Mel Keegans and haven't really gone for them, haven't really liked them at all. But this is from the old Gay Men's Press, which we've seen on this channel. These old, very distinctive trade paperback reprints. And this is Aquamarine. All the Gay Men's Press books look like this. They all have the black and white spine right in the middle there. And this is kind of science fiction. The ones that I read were, men's adventure, in which our two sexy young heroes, when they're not burning up the sheets with each other, they're being conked on the head or, locked in a basement or something like that. But this is science fiction. Mel Keegan's name is a byword for thrilling gay adventure in the past, present, and future. His new story is set in the late 21st century, when major land masses have been submerged by rising oceans, and the Earth is a world of water. When did this come out? The year 2000. Russell is a hydrologist based on the giant floating platform Pacifica. His lover, Eric, one of 50 Aquarians, a new subspecies who can breathe underwater. When the pair refuse an attractive offer for Eric's services on a suspicious salvage operation, Eric is kidnapped, and a fast-paced aquatic intrigue starts to unfold. I wonder if this will tell me what his other books were. Oh, there we go. Okay, he's an Australian writer, and he wrote Ice, Wind, and Fire and Stormtide. Those were the two books that I read. Those are the only two books mentioned in the About the Author section, so maybe this is the next book that he wrote. So that would mean that I have cornered the market on early Mel Keegan. We shall see. We shall see. I will certainly give it a try, maybe for Pride Month. Some aspects of it remind me of a science fiction novel that I think had a sequel by Gordon Dixon called Far From the Shore. This Alien Shore, something like that, about a group of people in future Earth who can live in the ocean, and the prejudices that they feel. I don't know. There are only 50 Aquarians in this novel, so there probably isn't much like that. But we'll stick with science fiction for the next one. This is one of the two hardcovers that I got. This is by Fred Pohl, who I really like. He wrote endlessly. I don't know if Fred Pohl is still alive, but he must have written a million books. And this one I've never heard of. That's no great feat. I'm sure that most of Frederick Pohl's books I have not heard of. But this one I've never even seen. And I saw it. It was free, so I grabbed it because he's always entertaining to read, even if he doesn't write exactly what you would call science fiction masterpieces. This one is All the Lives He Led. And there's an erupting volcano on the cover because this is about erupting volcanoes. Let's see what we have here. In AD 79, Vesuvius erupted, burying Pompeii under tons of ash, preserving evidence of the city's life before the catastrophe. Now, in 2079, Pompeii is a theme park. In the new ancient city, workers act as authentic Pompeians, and each morning, state-of-the-art virtual reality restores the ruins to their pre-eruption splendor and peoples the city with VR ancients. And you get to just be a tourist attraction for the last day of Pompeii. Brad Sheridan, one of the many new Pompeians, traveled a long and difficult road to get his job at the Jubilee, a huge celebration to commemorate the anniversary of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Born into a wealthy Kansas City family, his fortune changed in 2062 when a huge volcano erupted in Yellowstone Park, spreading ash over much of North America and uprooting tens of millions of Americans, including his family. So he gets work simulating being a civilian in Pompeii on the eve of its famous eruption. But at the heart of the book is the eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano, the supercaldera underneath Yellowstone Park. If that erupted, tens of millions of people would become refugees. No doubt about it. That would certainly happen. That will happen someday. Resettled in a refugee camp, Brad grew up on the knife edge of poverty, committing petty crimes, trying to make a buck any way he could. He eventually got out, but by becoming an indentured person with a bond to pay off. He has been doing well in Pompeii, preparing for the Jubilee and living with Gerda, the love of his life. But as the Jubilee draws near, everything that's good in his life seems to be going bad. A deadly virus, dubbed the Pompeii flu, is thinning the crowds of paying customers. This came out when? When did you come out? You came out. You certainly came out before the pandemic. Now, are you going to tell me? 2011? 2011, yeah. So there's a plague going on, but that's not the only thing. And Gerda has disappeared. Brad is increasingly worried about her, but instead of finding Gerda, he stumbles into evidence suggesting that terrorists have murdered one of his co-workers, and he is the prime suspect. With police shadowing him, he is having little luck finding his lost love, but he's discovered things that tell him his time is running out, as the real terrorists prepare their own surprise for the Jubilee, a massive disaster that could wipe out all humanity. So I have to wonder, I haven't read the book, but I have to wonder, are those terrorists going to try to reignite Vesuvius? Which wouldn't wipe out all of humanity, but it would still make for a heck of a conclusion to the book. I've never read this. Don't think I've ever seen it before, so I can't wait. One of the things about this particular pile of books that I accumulated today without any effort whatsoever is that almost all of them fall into the category of things that I want to reread immediately. I'll put a couple of them off, but either read or reread. Most of these things are very immediate. They're very urgent. Hence, this video could almost function as a Friday Reads. I have a bunch of stuff that I want to read for this weekend, but I think I'm going to boost a lot of these up front and get them read. This next one, the last one, will be a reread. But I haven't reread it in a while, and the minute I saw it, I thought, well, let's see, when did this come out? The 1940s? 1957. This is I Do It Again by James Michael Curley, who was mayor of Boston for a long, long time, and has a famous mansion that's on the Jamaica Way, and was famously a creature of the old ward politics system, a famously corrupt mayor of Boston. He was beloved by a lot of people. He was renounced by a lot of other people. He's the subject of a great Jack Beatty biography called The Rascal King. And he's also the clear model for Frank Skeffington in Edwin O'Connor's novel, The Last Hurrah. And this is his own book. And it's terrific. I don't know who he got to write it for him, but whoever that person was mimicked his public speaking voice to a T. And that kind of public speaking voice is gone from American politics. For good or ill, one way or the other, for whatever reason, it's completely gone. So it's almost sociological to read this thing. I haven't reread I Do It Again in, oh my God, I don't even know. It might have been the 70s. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. I might have read this. The last time I read this might have been when Curly died, or maybe when Edwin O'Connor died. Anyway, I'm long due for a reread, and it is hilarious fun to do. So it joins the pile of a whole bunch of these things that I want to get to right away. And there's no reason I can't. Right? I could just rearrange my reading and catch up on new releases next week, and just indulge myself for this weekend. So we have I Do It Again by James Michael Curley. We had All the Lives He Led. Terrible title, but a Fred Pohl book, bound to be entertaining. We have Aquamarine by Mel Keegan. I will have to find my trade copies of his first two books. A novel, Bookstore, in which it sounds like the author is trying to play on the fact that the quiet people who browse in bookstores all have hidden lives. Then The Lonesome Gods by Louis L'Amour in the mass market paperback that I really want this book in. It's the version that I want. I wouldn't have sprung for it if it weren't free. But then Freeman Wills Crofts. Another mystery by Freeman Wills Crofts. I will give this guy another try and see if this book doesn't bore me to my back teeth. Then we have The Exhibit. Is that thing exerting some sort of supernatural sway over our cast of characters? And Nicholas Montserrat's novel, The Pillow Fight, about a man and woman trying to reignite their marriage. What a weird collection of books, but almost all of them are calling to me. So I may indulge. This may be a Friday Reads. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. That was my latest completely unnecessary book haul, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.